Welcome to Universal Living Soulful Connections. This is your gateway to exploring spirituality in modern life, where our aim is to empower you with something new, a new perspective, a new tool, or simply a tip that you can apply in your life. Now, in each episode, we will bring you insightful conversations with special guests who share their unique journeys, practical wisdom, and ideas to support transformational change. A podcast leaving you feeling inspired, uplifted, and equipped with something new to navigate life's challenges. Moving from a life that isn't just happening to you to a life that is created by you. Hello and a very warm welcome. I'm Laverne Proctor and today's conversation is one I've been looking forward to immensely. Joining me is Kate Burrow, founder of Heartfelt Awareness. Kate's work bridges physical and the spiritual, from teaching Dru Yoga and meditation, practicing transference healing and guiding seekers through some of the world's most sacred landscapes. Kate's path is one of service, evolution, and heart. Kate, welcome to the show. It's such a pleasure to have you here.
Oh, it's such an honour, Laverne. Thank you so much for asking me.
So look, Kate, you've built an incredible practice at Heartfelt Awareness, blending Dru Yoga, meditation, and transference healing with the work as a sacred site guide. Now, it's a journey of deep spiritual alignment, but you started out in a very different profession.
I did indeed. Well, yeah, it all began really when I was 15. I got involved in catering and hospitality industry, and I did that for many, many years. And I actually got involved in a religious organisation, and through that has been one of the catalysts for my ascension journey.
Yeah, it was really funny that when we were speaking the other day that I learned that we shared roots in hospitality. So that was only something I learned more recently about you. And the fact that, you know, when I was 16, I was aspiring training as a French chef, expecting to be a head chef of a major hotel at some point in my life. But what drew you to hospitality initially?
I think it was just because I was really good at food studies at school. It was my best grade, and I enjoyed the practical side of it. You know, there was obviously lots of cooking involved. And yeah, I just loved anything practical. So it was a very small class. I remember there were only 8 of us, so it felt very intimate. The teacher was Welsh. She was fantastic. Quite an elderly teacher, so she was like a grandma as well. And yeah, it was just a lovely atmosphere. So when I got my grades, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I thought, well, let's go into catering and hospitality and see where that takes me.
And that's interesting. So how long were you in hospitality, and what moment during that period did you make a turning point which took you on a journey of looking at yoga and meditation?
Yes, it was probably about 17 years, a long time. But since I was 15 till I was about 32. And yeah, I did everything from chefing, housekeeping, laundry work, waitressing, silver service, supervisory management, and you name it, I did it. And it was great because I learnt so much, gives you so much experience, and a lot of key skills to customer service, which have supported me now, and working relationships. So it's a great industry.
So how did you find Dru Yoga and meditation? How did that come into your life?
Yeah, so I was actually 16 years in this religious organisation, and although we worked in catering and hospitality during that time, you know, and I got qualifications and all kinds of things, and did do some travelling, I actually, after all of that, I wanted to get away from hospitality. I'd kind of had enough, long hours and shift work, things like that. And also coming out of this religious organization, I felt there was this void, because you suddenly let go of a life where you are, it's very difficult to explain it, but you are, it's a completely different life to what my life is now. It was very controlling. And so I needed something to fill that void. And that's what Dru Yoga did for me. So I never knew about yoga before, but I went to a Dru Yoga class because my sister invited me. I was here in London, and I very, very quickly realized there was this stillness that I discovered in the heart. And this was the missing element. It filled that void quite quickly and enabled me to begin to practice yoga more for myself, meditation, and probably within a year, maybe less, I decided I wanted to teach. I wanted to do the Dru Yoga teacher training course in North Wales, Snowdonia. And so that was my path for the next 2.5 years. Not full time, but we went over 8 modules over 2.5 years. And later on, I did the meditation course as well. So
Dru Yoga is often described as the yoga of the heart, which I loved when I did a little bit of research around this style of yoga. For listeners who may not know, how would you describe Dru Yoga and what makes it different from other styles of yoga?
Yeah, so Dru, the actual word Dru, comes from the Sanskrit word Dhruva and refers to the North Star, that still point in the sky. And so when we are practicing movement in Dru Yoga, we talk often about this still point, this stillness, and we want to be able to find it. And it's very easy to find, actually. And you discover it's your heart space. It's that your heart center. So that is what is described as the North Star, that kind of reflection, if you like. And the North Star is that it's known to be one of the shinest, brightest, stillest stars in the sky. It's ever present, if you like. So I love that Dru took that on as their name. And yeah, it's such a beautiful style of yoga that I actually don't really want to do any other, because it's so encompassing. It has elements of Tai Chi in it, which makes it gentle but dynamic, and it can be suitable for anyone. I've had the privilege of teaching not just adults and children, but for charities. I've done work for charities where, particularly a neurological charity, where people have had or still have conditions such as Parkinson's and strokes, and they are, working towards supporting themselves. And so I would teach them on a weekly basis, and they were able to do what they could. And some of them could only visualize the movements, but how powerful that was for them and for me as a teacher to see these people really making the effort to find that stillness, regardless of whether they could move an arm or a leg or not. So it was deeply humbling experience.
When you look back, what changed for you personally once you began practicing yoga and then teaching it?
Yeah, so having found that stillness within, it gives you, it's a true gift. It's one that nobody can give you, and it's a feeling of peace, of inner calm, centeredness, groundedness. And these are all the things that we teach in yoga, and I continue to practice throughout my day. And they're such simple things as well. So I guess it formed a part of my life, a part of that new life, if you like, moving away from an old life of control and manipulation to a sense of freedom, and beginning to empower myself and discover, well, who do I want to be and how do I want to serve?
No, that's incredible. And did you see the changes in the people that you worked with?
I did, yeah. And you know, I worked with a lady one-to-one who was struggling health-wise. She was quite stressed. She was an author. She had at the time a young child, and so very hectic lifestyle. So I came in to support her, not only actually to offer her a yoga class in her home, but because of my knowledge and awareness of what I could see happening to her, I would give, if you like, Kate's philosophy, a little bit of support, a little bit of help to just see, well, perhaps, you know, try this, without pushing, but just to support her with that self-confidence and that value for herself. And that was a beautiful journey that probably lasted about 3 months. And yeah, she still tells me about it today. So
that's incredible. So how long have you been practicing or working with Dru Yoga and meditation now?
So since 2012. So that's about whatever that is, 16 years. Yeah. So that's a good time.
So did you then move on to merging sacred site tours with that journey, or did you find Transference Healing and then started initiating sacred site tours?
Yeah, Transference Healing came first. So in between Transference Healing and yoga, I was also I had a role as a gardener, full-time gardener. So I went from hospitality to gardening. So from being inside all the time to being outside all the time, which had some elements of greatness in the sense, you know, you're working with the soil, the land, the nature. But at the same time, after 6 years, it's like my body just couldn't do it anymore. It's just that it's heavy work. It's tough being outside all weathers, or in England as well, all year round. So it was great, but that had to stop, and so it did. And then I had this period where I wasn't sure what I was going to do, and at that point, I felt it had affected me mentally as well as physically. At that point, Transference Healing appeared to me. In the form of Tracy Ciclada, who is a Transference Healing teacher and practitioner. And I discovered her group on Facebook. And at the beginning, I didn't know quite what to make of it, to be honest. At the beginning, she was offering these card readings. And it took me a good while to sign up. And this was for free. But and I remember my first ever card. This is from the Animal Magic deck of Transference Healing. My first ever card was Unicorn, and I thought, I'm not too sure about this. So anyway, about a month later, I had heard that Tracy offers a mentoring program to support people. And this sounded really what I needed. And so I had a good chat with her, and I signed up to her program, and at that point it was every single week for a year. So it was a big commitment, and hard work. But it shifted me in some beautiful ways, and I still do mentoring with Tracy, not on a weekly basis now on a monthly basis. But the beauty of it is that Tracy brought in elements of Transference Healing through her mentoring, And then within about 5 months, I realized I need to do the Transference Healing fundamentals training and learned to be a Transference Healing practitioner. And so I had no idea actually what Transference Healing was about, but I knew I had to do this training.
That's an interesting story. That's a common theme with people when they stumble on Transference Healing. So that's a really great intro to Transference Healing. Can you share what Transference Healing is in a way that you feel someone completely new to energy work might be able to understand?
Yeah, so it's a big subject, but Transference Healing is a beautiful healing modality that supports you on your journey of ascension. So your spiritual journey of ascension. It can support you as well, health-wise, but its ultimate aim is to support you on your ascension journey, on your spiritual path. So people will come to me and to other practitioners for regular healings or an animal magic card reading or some way that they can get in touch with the energy. And this energy is extremely powerful. It's all encompassing. It uses color, light, frequency, keys and codes. It was channeled through by Alexis Cartwright, the anchor and channeler of Transference Healing. And it really shifts your energy from one state of being to another. So you could be feeling in a pretty negative energy, perhaps, for example, sadness or fear, and it will shift that energy as long as you set the intention for that, and that you're willing to do the work as well to support you. And so it's truly empowering. Yeah.
That's a beautiful and simple explanation. I really love the way you've done that. When you look back on the Transference Healing journey, what shifts have you particularly noticed in yourself? Bearing in mind that you'd been on a spiritual journey for a while and you've done quite a lot of work up to that point.
Yeah, well, just to reflect on those years when I was in the religious organization, it was extremely difficult, extremely challenging mentally. I went in thinking this was for me, and it was for that part of my life, but it wasn't easy. And so because it was very controlled, it was a very different environment. Whereas Transference Healing is not at all religious, completely spiritual, and gives you the freedom to be yourself, to work with the energy as you wish. It's such a beautiful way to live your spirituality on a day-to-day basis, knowing that you have these tools to support yourself and to support others.
So how do you see the discipline of your yoga and the energy of Transference Healing complementing each other and can work together supporting someone?
Yeah, so there are a few similarities. I mean, things like grounding techniques that we use in yoga is done in a different way in Transference Healing, but it's there, you know, and the colors and even some of the symbols. So it can weave a little bit in and out. So, for example, when I've taught a yoga class recently, like a weekly yoga class, I would divine an animal magic card for that week. And so I'd say, oh, this week we have frog, and I'd read out a little spiel, and I might just say something about frog and rejuvenation. That's the key word. And then we'd move on to the yoga movement. But then, of course, Kate's philosophy would come back in, those words of wisdom, and a little meditation would come through. And so without using any of the techniques as such of transference healing, it has weaved its way into my yoga class, for example. And I think it's just beautiful that you can do that.
We've got a number of yoga instructors in Transference Healing, and it's really interesting that the realization they're making is, Transference Healing almost becomes a part of you, and you become a part of Transference Healing, and then whatever you're doing in your life, it sort of weaves into your life in a beautiful, flowing way. Is there a story that illustrates the kind of transformation you've witnessed through Transference Healing for yourself and for someone else?
Well, for me, it's an ongoing journey, but yes, totally. I think probably training in transference healing has been the most empowering thing that I've done for myself. I did mention that I had no idea what I was signing myself up for, learning transference healing. I hadn't got a clue. I opened the manual on our training. I started to cry because reading at the front of the manual, it speaks how sacred this energy was, and I could feel that energy. And there and then I knew that I would continue this journey. So that was a deeply profound moment for me, and it's one that I'll never forget. I'll cherish it. I think that for others, well, one thing I'd like to mention actually is the group that Tracy has. So we, apart from myself, I think it was a couple of years ago now, Tracy opened up a group for people who were really committed to their ascension journey, and we're working with her on a mentoring basis already. And so this began as a weekly meeting, which still carries on, and there's about 6 of us from all over the world, and we get to open our hearts as well as listen to whatever teaching Tracy wants to bring through. And it's such a beautiful way to feel and be heard. And so this is one of the ways that Transference Healing has supported others as well as myself. Yeah, it's just great. Absolutely wonderful.
And that's a really important note that you make. In your experience, what kinds of people are most drawn to this modality, and is there a common thread that you've noticed in what they're seeking?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think in general it does seem to be spiritual people, or people at least they're looking for something more. There's more to life, for example, than just the daily work, the paychecks, the family. There's something else that they're seeking. And so I'll get a message from someone a few months ago who lives near here, wanting to come for a monthly healing. And she's actually quite a private person. I don't know anything about her, which is, you don't need to for transference healing. All you need to know is their birth date for their Chiron. And so I ran the energy etherically on her for 8 months. And as I say, she's quite a private person. So, but I did manage to ask her, would you mind sharing a little bit of how it's helped you? And so she did, and it was truly profound. So for whatever reason, she's been drawn to the energy. She feels she's received what she wants to receive, and she's actually gonna stop. She's after next month, so it's great that she's had that insight.
And again, that's a really interesting point. A lot of people that look at transference healing as a potential option for a one-on-one session, it really isn't about therapy, is it? They can literally arrive, say very little, because really it's more about tuning into the subconscious of their body and allowing the energy to do the work, bypassing the ego, bypassing what they think they need, what we think they need. So I think that's a really important point that you've made, that, you know, people don't have to speak. They don't have to say too much. The energy is going to do what it needs to do. And that's important because a lot of people don't like sharing their story. You know, they just want to receive, and through that receiving, they achieve whatever they need to achieve for them.
Yeah, and it's so beautiful because as a practitioner and teacher, when you're running the energy for someone or for yourself, you know, you're just trusting the process. All you need to do is run the energy. We are simply channels of this energy, of this light. And the more that I can be that pure, clear channel, the more that energy will run clearer. And so when you get the feedback sheet, the summary at the end, and you read it and you intuitively give the feedback, it's always spot on every single time. It's magic. And I love that. I just love it.
I feel for myself, it really takes the pressure off you because there's such a deep divination process that goes on. There's a very clear picture that you're left with at the end of running the energy, that you don't need to do anything else other than share what came up. And I love that about transference healing. And clients love to receive the readings too, which gives them the clarity to walk away with and change whatever they need to change. That's great that you mentioned that too. So look, moving on, you lead sacred site tours, which sounds incredible. How did that part of your work begin?
Yeah, well, that is all down to Mary Magdalene, who you can see pictured here in the Transference Healing template. We also have a beautiful black statue of her here, which you perhaps can't see so much. In fact, you know, let's just bring her in because she is so beautiful. I absolutely love her. So she is from Halo Avalon, which is a temple in Glastonbury. And when I saw her on the website, I thought, she has to come. She has to come home. And of course, bringing a statue like this into your home, you know, it does, well, yes, it sends you on a journey, shall we say. So we'll just pop her back. There we go. So yes, Sacred Sites Tours. Yes, so Transference Healing led me to Mary Magdalene. Very often I've discovered on this journey we get guides, spiritual guides who support us on the way. And Mary Magdalene came to me. Now, I can't quite remember whether I had the template or not, but I do remember how the Sacred Sites Tours began. So we'll start there. So it was October 22. I live near Teddington Lock, which is next to the River Thames. And one day I was walking across the bridge, and I have a little hobby of reading the names of the boats. They've got such interesting names. Anyway, there was a barge that day, and this barge said Pilgrim. And I thought, oh, Pilgrim. And I took that as a sign that I should be doing a pilgrimage. And straight away I thought, oh, perhaps it's the Camino de Santiago walk in the north of Spain, the Way of St. James. And then I thought, oh, November, it's going to be very cold, similar weather to the UK. Perhaps not many people around, maybe not such a good idea. Anyway, a few days later, I went for another walk and ended up in Richmond, further up the river. Richmond upon Thames, and there are some rowing boats there, and the one that caught my eye said Magdalene. I had never seen this boat before. So I put the two together. I was like, wow, a pilgrimage to Mary Magdalene. And I was like, but I don't know anything about her apart from what's in the Bible. And so I just shelved it. And a few days later, I had an appointment, and I got chatting to the receptionist, and I didn't mention about the boats, but I said I wanted to go away somewhere warm, but not too far. I'd already been to Egypt and India. And she said, go to Marseille. This lady happened to be from Marseille. And she gave me some ideas for some walks. Anyway, when I got home that night, I looked on my computer, Marseille and Mary Magdalene, and there is a big connection. And so I discovered about an hour and a quarter drive away, northeast of Marseille, there is a place called Saint Maxima de Bohème, where her skull is believed to be residing in the basilica there. And also about half an hour drive away from there is the Saint Bohème mountain range, where there is 3 grottos dedicated to her. And this is the place where it's believed she spent many years of her life. So the story goes, the legend, whatever you want to call it, that after Jesus had died, that of course Mary Magdalene and the others were still around. The Romans didn't want them around. And so they were placed on a boat with no rudder and no oar, and ended up in the south of France in a place called Sainte-Marie-de-la-Mer, which is just to the west of Marseille. And she spent a lot of time along the south coast of France, evangelizing. And so in the south of France now, there is a huge cult of Mary Magdalene, which is great. It is beautiful. And she chose a very special land to be in. I particularly love the southwest of France, where I take people on tour. And it's just the land, the waters, the caves, the grottos, the energy is just so pure there, and long may it be. It seems to be very unpopulated, not touristy, although people go, there's not huge signposts, so I hope it stays that way. Certainly the energy will. And so I took myself off on my first tour for myself, which was some days in Marseille and Saint Maxima, first of all. I also went to Coxon, and I think it was about a week. And whilst I was in Saint Maxima, whilst I was on the mountain range wandering around looking for these grottos, I was actually so excited. I was tripping over myself. And she told me there and then, slow down, slow down. And I paused, and she said, slow down. I will teach you how to reach your heart. So how to you can translate that if you like as how to meditate or whatever you like, but how to find answers that you seek. And then she also said later on, she said, I want you to bring people here. And so that was the birth of the Sacred Sites tours. And I should mention, I have it in my hand, this skull. So about a week or two before I saw the boat here, I'd gone to the Mind, Body, Spirit show, which I'd never been to before here in London. So it's like a wellbeing show. And I'd never really been interested in crystals, but I straight away made for a beeline for this stall, and I saw this skull. And I've not been interested in skulls before, but I knew I had to buy it. And this skull came with me to France for that first tour with myself. And of course, you'll see the skull in the picture here. It is one of the symbols of Mary Magdalene, and it's how she reveals herself to me in cloud formations quite often. So I'll give you an example. I was taking somebody on tour to France a couple of years ago, and we were at the airport. I'm on the plane, actually. We hadn't taken off yet, and suddenly there was skulls everywhere. And I was like, okay, we're coming. So, and when I carry this skull around with me, I place my fingers over the eye sockets and I ask to help me to see clearly. I place my fingers over the ears, or where the ears would be, and ask to hear clearly. And then I place my finger over the mouth and I ask to speak clearly, or to speak my truth. So that's one way that Mary Magdalene supports me in that connection.
Well, that leads me to another question, and you might feel it sort of circles back to what you've already stated. What does Mary Magdalene represent to you?
Yeah, so Mary Magdalene for me represents the divine feminine. This moment that we're in right now is the awakening of the divine feminine, and I believe she is one of the main catalysts for this process to happen. And that is why so many people are going to sacred sites. So many people are drawn to France, for example, but also to Egypt and other sacred sites. You'll see in the template here, she is shown as dark-skinned, and also have the dark statue, because she, well, I believe she would have been like this, how Alexis sees her as well. She was, of course, from the Holy Land. She would have spent time in Egypt and other countries as well, but she's also represented as the lineage of the Black Madonna. So she carries the lineage of the Black Madonna, which is a very ancient lineage. So you'll see Black Madonnas in churches. Apparently there's 500 of them in France alone. And these are, in general, wooden statues, mainly of representing Mother Mary and child. But it is Mary Magdalene who holds this lineage, and so she has a very important role to play. And you also see her in this template depicted in a cave. It's dark. I had to get some light on her so you could see her. And so you can imagine how she would have been in Saint Bohème, in this grotto cave. She has a candle, the chalice, a snake representing the Kundalini energy, and these fierce kind of steady looking eyes that are always watching you. She's always looking at you. So she's a great companion, a teacher, and I think she has a lot to teach us still. So I would, if you feel drawn to Mary Magdalene, I encourage you to follow her.
It's interesting. What is it, do you find, about ancient sites that acts as a catalyst for healing work we do internally?
So sacred sites, they are such powerful places. I mean, the whole world is sacred, you could say. It is indeed. But there are specific places, I believe, in the world that hold different types of energy. And so when I go to the different sites, it's as if a portal is opening, and whoever is there, and if they have the right intentions, will receive the keys and codes that this particular place wishes to open for them and act as a remembrance. Very often I go to sacred sites and I know I've been there before. I've been to Egypt before, and people that I take remember as well. It sends shivers down me just as I speak. It's an inner knowing. So these sacred sites, they hold this energy, and they're just waiting for people to visit. Now, some people are able to visit them through their meditation and don't need to go physically. Now, I have been told that I physically need to go to these sites. And so my offering is to do as Mary Magdalene has asked me to take people. And actually, she is the one who guides me to where. Sometimes the sites might not necessarily have anything to do with her, but they still hold energy that is wanting to be. It's like a key that's just wanting to be opened, and then the door opens, and there's another land, another experience, another energy waiting to be discovered.
Can you share your most favourite sacred site that really stayed with you?
Well, I have to say that the southwest of France is still my favourite place. Mainly because it's the land as well. It's not just, one building or one cave. It's the whole area, and it's vast. So we're talking about, on a geographical note, as soon as you arrive really at Carcassonne, south of Carcassonne, in southwest of France, and you just begin to drive, and you can feel this energy, and you can see it everywhere, the greenery and the vines. It's just magic. It is literally like stepping into another realm. And there are some very ancient chapels. If people know of the Mary Magdalene books, Anna, the grandmother of Jesus, the author escapes me just now, but they are channeled books, and they mention these places. Now, I read that book after I had been to this area, and so one of the places she mentions is Mount Bugarat, which is there, and I remember climbing up that mountain, and it's an incredible place. It has, as you walk up, you see in the rock formations giants, Mary Magdalene, skulls, all kinds of imagery, and you get up to the top and you come out on this plateau, and it's what I feel is like the Mount of the Beatitudes. It's grassy, it's flattish, it's quite a big area where people could be, and I could just feel the energy of Jesus and Mary Magdalene up there. And so when I read afterwards the book that they had most likely been there, I was like, of course, I can feel it. You can feel it, and even from a distance, Mount Bugarat, you can feel the energy. It's such a powerful presence. So that would be my favourite place. And I will just mention one more place which is very important, and that is in Egypt, the Temple of Philae. So it is the Temple of Isis, which also has the energy of Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene. I believe Mary Magdalene was a priestess there, and it's an island, so you get to go on this little boat journey, first of all, and they actually have moved the original one to where it is now because it got flooded, and then they built the dam, and then so they rebuilt it, which is an incredible thing to do. and doesn't, you've done a really good job, So the energy there is just, again, I felt like I was home, really, truly special energy. And I think if you just have the calling like I did, particularly to go to Egypt or other places, you just have to go. And if you don't, it will keep calling you. So I do encourage people, when you get the calling, just go.
That's very good advice. And some more advice for someone listening who feels drawn to sacred site tours. What advice do you give them when looking at tour options?
Well, I just had this experience actually recently because somebody contacted me. And so we had a little Zoom call, and I asked her some questions. I said, well, what are your intentions? What do you want to experience? Why are you wanting to go to these places? So I want to find out about the answers to these questions. If you're going just to see the sights and rush around and spend whatever time and then disappear, it's not going to have the same effect as when you go somewhere, take the time. Because when we go on tour, yes, we see sacred sites and we do travel quite a lot sometimes, but there's always time for reflection, for stillness, for working with transference healing energy to support all of that, and to really slow down, because it is a healing journey when you go to sacred sites. So I try and instill that in people, because I think the word tour, I had to be very careful when I chose this, because the connotation is simply, in my experience, when I've been on tours, is rushing around and seeing as much as possible. And that's exactly what I'm trying to get away from. And so it actually brings me to the point where I've had to reflect and perhaps change my tours a little bit, change direction, and add in some more rest time or some healing time. And I've had the privilege of taking groups of people, but also a lot of individual tours. And when you have an individual private tour, you can just really go that bit deeper and be much more flexible. And so, yeah, we've had days where we've, got up later and run some healing energy for them. And we've just taken a much slower pace. Yeah, so really, making sure you have that rest and rejuvenation time. It's so important, because whoever goes on a tour, you're going through a purification process. And purification happens easier the more we can surrender and just release, let go with ease and grace. Not always easy, but if we can give ourselves the time, the space, it will support you a lot.
That sounds like my kind of tour. So look, if you look back over your life as a whole, were there clear turning points when you reflect back you can see, and how they changed you?
Totally. Firstly, one of the reasons why I went into this religious organisation, I didn't know at the time. And when I came out and gave myself that time and had some mentoring, it became clear that I was looking for a place to belong. And this is typical for a Chiron in Taurus, which I am, whose wounding is all to do with safety and security. So belonging was something that I had been looking for, and I thought I'd found it. And yet it was probably, I would say, false with hindsight now. It wasn't a true belonging. So I learnt through the yoga that belonging was here. It was within me all the time, not something outside of me. And then, of course, by continuing my journey and my spiritual journey, opening up more and more the true essence of me, then the magic just started to happen. And there was just such freedom and a very natural way of being. I think we, especially people on a spiritual journey, we're seekers, and we want to know our path. What's my life's purpose? Here I am, I'm ready. You know? I've certainly been like that. So I've discovered, God, if we can just let go, if we can just surrender and allow the divine to work through us, so that we are that channel, then it just makes life much easier.
And that's a really interesting point. I was laughing with you when you were talking about that. A large part of my life I've been striving to figure out what my purpose is. And then I just decided, well, just follow my heart. What am I passionate about? What gives me joy? Because through that, you come into alignment, don't you, with your purpose.
Totally. And that is why, the name for my brand, if you like, is Heartfelt Awareness, the awareness of the heart. And this is something that's been with me since the yoga days began. So, sometimes you're given a name and you have no idea why. Why is it called Heartfelt Awareness? But I've never wanted to let it go, because it does have meaning for me. So it's become the umbrella for everything that I do. So I have Heartfelt Petcare as well, because I look after dogs. And so that awareness.
That's funny you mentioned that, because that was something I was really interested in learning more. And I know it's not a large part of what you do, but I think for pet owners out there, it's great for you just to touch on this a little bit and just explain, well, what is it you're doing when you're doing pet care?
Yeah, so when I'm not on tour and I'm in the UK, I look after dogs. I walk them, I board them, sometimes house sit as well. And this came quite naturally. So after I finished my gardening work, there was a gap, a pause, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. Didn't feel guided to get a job, but realised I had to make a living. So I knew that I was trained as a yoga teacher, a meditation teacher, so I thought, yeah, I could do that. And then somebody said, well, why don't you do some dog care? And I thought, well, yeah, that sounds great, because I love being out in nature and I love dogs. And I soon realised that this was a soul contract, because many of the dogs that I was called to look after were perhaps a little bit more needy, the elderly, or young, rescues. And because of my way of being, my persona, this calm energy and groundedness, I say to clients when they come, I run Transference Healing Energy. I'm a yoga teacher, and so when they bring their dog to this house, it will rub off. They will feel the energy. That's why the templates are there. The templates, anybody can have them in their home, but the frequency that they give off, it changes your whole environment. Such a positive energy, very powerful. So the dogs pick up on it. So when I'm running healing, whether it's on myself or someone, the dog will be around and they'll just fall asleep. So I'm not necessarily running it on them, but they're picking up on the energy. And very often I've had comments back from the clients saying, "Oh, they're so calm. You know, this is a week later and they've gone back home. They're still so calm. What have you done?" You know, kind of. So it's great because I can support these dogs who are, you know, quite often can be anxious, you know, very suffering from separation anxiety. And so, yeah, it's been a great way to serve them. Yeah, and so that it's been a two-way. They've helped me, and I help them. Yeah,
and it's not well known that, you know, when running energy, we naturally think, oh, running energy on people. But we can run energy on dogs. We just tune into their level of frequency, and so a transference healing could be run on a dog. So I love the fact that whilst you don't do it directly, even just indirectly, it's having such a positive ripple for them. So imagine any dog owner with a dog with bigger challenges potentially could run what we call a full transference healing on them. So I just love that story. So
totally.
Looking back on your journey, what's the most important lesson you've learned?
I would say to be myself. You know, just going back to what we talked about briefly recently, you know, we're searching. We have this constantly searching for what we should be doing, what we think our life purpose is. Being, you know, there's no two Kates in the world. There's no two Lavernes in the world. We each have our own unique energy. You know, if I can just be me and discover more who I am, that is the best thing I think that I can do in this life.
What are some simple daily practices that help you stay grounded and aligned in your own life?
Yeah, so you know, one thing that I love to do is go out in the garden barefooted. Can't always do that in this country, but this time of year it's getting a bit warmer, and that is super, super grounding. Really takes your energy down into the earth, and the energy comes up from the earth and supports you. So it's a two-way process going on. So I do that a lot. I'll do some movement work, Dru Yoga. Just simple movements that anybody can do that shift your energy. And then I will every day run Transference Healing Energy, not necessarily full healing, but just some simple yet powerful procedures. Just bringing up white light, for instance, is just very, very clearing, to constantly clear my energy in fields and bring me and keep me in a state of balance. And you know when you're not in a state of balance, because then the emotions are going crazy and the mind's going crazy, and I'll know then, oh, okay, I need to run a healing, or I need to, you know, get someone to run healing on me, perhaps, you know. So that's something I do every day. And I think you might be going to ask me this question in a moment, but I'll answer it. I think my go-to transference healing procedure would be the mental pain release, where we first divine whether we need to run the mental pain release, which is bringing down energy through your body, particularly through your spine, down the spine, and then very, very, very slowly, and then up again. And when we go up, we're just releasing any schisms, any stagnant energy that just needs to clear. And you can feel it. It's so pure, it's beautiful. And I think we need that, you know, we need that clearing of energy. So there are some very simple procedures that people can use on themselves without having to train in transference healing, in the Beyond Doorways book by Alexis Cartwright. So I do encourage people to delve into that and empower themselves.
Do you have any little rituals that you put in place to not only protect your energy but support you to sustain your wellness or sense of wellness?
Yeah, so I like to light a candle every day. I've actually got 4 going at the moment. Normally Transference Healing we have 3, but I've also got a special one for tonight, Mother Mary candle. Candle is such a beautiful, the lighting of a candle is a beautiful thing to do. It, not only gives light and heat and warmth, it can act as a focal point for you to just focus on the flame and bringing that light into yourself, into your heart, and sending it out into the world. So I think it's a very, very powerful ritual to do. I can't actually think of anything else at the top of my head, but I'm sure there are others that I do.
It's definitely a very practical one that anyone listening could start. I mean,
Exactly.
you talk about candles. I have candles in every room, and at night, one of my little rituals, I like to go around the house and light them all, not only because I feel it shifts the energy and transmute anything that needs to be transmuted, but when you walk through a candlelit house, it just calms me down and it just centers me and brings that stillness that you've talked about. So yeah, candles is a great one to land on, so I really appreciate that. Many listeners might feel an inner nudge to try something new. What would you say to someone standing on that edge?
I'd say go for it. If you're feeling a nudge for something, it's your higher self or your intuition, if you like to call it that, it's telling you, come on, go for it, do it. I mean, you know, when I saw that boat and discovered I had to go to France, I got a ticket straight away. I didn't mess around. I just did it. So it's about taking that divine action. Take it. If you get the calling, I thought that's probably my best advice for people. Take it. It sometimes the voice can be very quiet, or you see a sign, like I did, a pilgrim, or I don't know, in the clouds, or a little child. It could be anything, but whatever it is, it's for you. So take it. Take that action, that divine masculine, and go for it, because it's your higher self saying, this way, this way.
And I guess it's about being consciously open to looking for those signs. And another Transference healer described it as breadcrumbs. Seeing a breadcrumb, a sign, and then something else, and then you take those 2 signs and it creates a bigger message. And just trusting what feels right, I think, also in addition to all your good advice, is a good place to start.
I mean, I think it was Mike Dooley that said, if you take 1 step forward, the universe will do the rest. And it could be a tiny step, but it's that step that's important. And sometimes there's going to be fear. So maybe that step's going to be really, really tiny. But that's okay. That's when Mary Magdalene comes in.
If someone is curious about Dru Yoga, Transference Healing, or your sacred site tours, but doesn't know where to begin, how can they find you after listening to this episode?
Yeah, the best way is to contact me personally on email or my phone number, but I am on social media, on Facebook. I have my personal profile, Kate Burrow, and also my group page, Magdalene Rising Sacred Sites Tours. And I'm also on Instagram as Heartfelt_Awareness. So that's the main places you'll find me. And, just like I found Tracy, and no doubt other things in life, no doubt, if you're meant to be aligned with me, you will. That's how energy works. And very often it's word of mouth. Many people do put down Facebook, but I tell you, it's been a wonderful resource to discover this energy, to discover soul family, and take people on tour and teach yoga and all of that.
So when you look ahead a few years, what do you see as your vision and mission for yourself?
Well, I know that I'm still supposed to be leading Sacred Sites Tours for a while. I don't know how long that will be, but that will continue. Although, having said that, about a month ago now, I sprained my ankle. So that has been a very interesting journey where the goddess has said, Kate, we want you to stop doing the dog walks, stop doing the tours. I need lots of walking involved in both of those activities. And it's been a real lesson of surrendering and, not looking for something else to do, but really to rest, rejuvenate, allow this ankle to heal. And what will come after, who knows? I hope to continue doing tours. But I'm open to wherever I'm needed to serve. So we'll see. I look forward to updating you on that. But it's something that I think we all seem to be in this space at the moment where, it's the energy of the fire horses come in, and yet we're not quite ready to. Some of us are not quite ready to launch forward yet. Some of us are. I know a chap who is. He's flying, but yeah. We're not all quite there yet. So it's just about holding space for ourselves and allowing it all to be okay.
Wise words. Is there a message, a final message, a reminder that feels especially important for you to share with people right now? What would that be?
Well, I suppose it's going to be to follow your heart, to go back to the heart, where it all began for me, that journey of finding stillness. I'm actually wearing the Mary Magdalene medallion that Transference Healing produce, and it has a beautiful garnet stone necklace, which is the stone of the heart, one of the stones. And just keep coming back to your heart, really, because that is our North Star, our centre point, our place of stillness. It's the place of our inner knowing, and will never let you down. And so I remember it was, I'm going to say it was Nelson Mandela. I think it was Nelson Mandela. When he was imprisoned, and he said, they can torture me, they can abuse me, but they can never get to my soul, to my heart. That I'm in control of. That is my sovereignty, my truth, my essence, and that stood by him. Yeah. So follow your heart, because it'll never let you down.
I can't think of a better, more beautiful message to end with, and I want to extend my heartfelt thanks to you, Kate Burrow. It's been such a joy having you here, and thank you for sharing your story, your learnings, your wisdom and your insights, and thank you for being part of the conversation. I can't wait for us to connect again.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, Laverne. Thank you for having me.
Every step of your journey has purpose, even the ones that aren't yet clear. So how you show up today creates a ripple for tomorrow. The way you support, guide and care for yourself and others truly matters. Never underestimate what you have to contribute to this world. I'm Laverne Proctor. Thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you in the next one.